Thanks, everybody. Keynote, all right, 440. The original title for this was "Sample Isn't the Problem, You're the Problem." And I thought about that for a while, and yesterday I was like, I'm totally gonna go through with this. Melanie got me all pumped up, she was like, just has people feel something, is it, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And for me, I think about professional wrestling. If anybody follows me on Twitter, Macho Man Randy Savage is my avatar. And I was like, that's great, heel, face, let's go, right? Let's get into it. And then I realized, that's crazy. No, you can't go up there and say that everybody else is the problem. So really, when I was thinking about this, I started thinking about the grit report. I started thinking about NPS scores that we get, and really just trying to see how we've evolved with the market. How things have changed, how much automation has come into play, how much you see more DIY rising up, and really just how much the whole industry has changed and innovated and evolved, and really start to question, is that a good thing? Is that something that really is doing what's best for the industry, right? Or are we just doing it to keep up with the Joneses? So here's a little bit agenda for the day. We'll talk about where we are, talk about where the technology space is driven, how we've kind of evolved. And really, this is the main part up in the corner, just how the most important has changed. If you look back at Grit, the latest one just came out a couple weeks ago, but the biggest part is that over the years, there's a section in there why do you choose your suppliers? And it's interesting to me to see how that's changed over time. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about some of the research that we're doing and really where we're going, and hopefully we have some time for some Q&A. So where are we? I think a big part is the evolution of technology and sample. Really, for some perspective, you probably saw on LinkedIn over the last couple of days, Matt Duzane of Innovate posted the article about Greenfield, how it was a huge giant. And you see about how the people that were there and what they've gone on to in the industry, what they've really innovated and made the world so much better in the sampling part, made things a lot easier. Last month, Patrick Comer had the article really showing the evolution of technology. Starting out, it was one panel, one survey. And then moving on, you start talking about router. Then you start talking about aggregated router. Then you start talking about programmatic APIs. And so much has become more of an automation type suit. And the question that came to mind for me, this is something that many kind of touched about in the great debate. 2 years ago, automation was crazy. And now it's just a way, it's just an accepted way. It's kind of the table stakes of where we're at. My question is why? What drove us to automation? And the big part of why I think we've really done this is because what's important most to our clients has changed. And really, we've seen the evolution, and we've gotten so much closer as sample suppliers. That was a crazy part for me in the sample debate, was why wouldn't you bring a supplier with you? And I think we have, so much so. I think we are closer to having a seat at the table with agencies. We're closer to having a seat at the table with the brands, with the end clients at front. And mostly that's just because the world's getting smaller. Everybody's got a voice. I couldn't tell you how many Twitter followers does Melanie have? How many Twitter followers does Seema have? You have so much of a stronger voice. You have conferences like this where we're getting more of those seats at the table. For the most part, though, when I was going through and naming the evolution, I talked about the panel, I talked about aggregated, I talked about router. It muddies the water so much. And really creates kind of, we were at the roundtables earlier, and so many people were like, I don't understand this sample. I don't know what's going on. All this jargon, all these things that have come out have really muddied the waters for us. And it really kind of made things like my junk drawer. It's my junk drawer hell. So this is something I know everything that's in the junk drawer, much like I know every sample supplier out there, but I couldn't grab it at a hunch. And everybody's up here. If you think about it, you've got, we'll call Lucid the calculator because they're really into technology. SSI is the stamps. Everybody's up there and everybody's in the junk drawer, but it seems so muddy and it's intimidating. If you're a sample buyer and you think about how many calls you get during a day, you come to this conference, you walk down that, how many times you get, stopped, hey, let me tell you, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best. It really starts to make the sample muddied waters. And from here, we see that as we've automated, and as we've changed, and I talked about how the most important has changed, we've really seen kind of a de-evolution of how what's been changed. You look at the Grit report in 2011, it's, why would you pick and why would you work with someone? The biggest reason was because there was a partnership. They understood what the objectives were. If you look at the top three, it was they understand what's right for me and my client. They want to meet with me and be a partner. And the last one, and the third one was quality. And way down the list were things like cost. Way down the list were things like timeliness. And now, as we look and we see the grit, and we look at our NPS scores all the time, we ask people why they work with us. When you're with your client, you ask, why are you working with us? And the biggest thing that we hear, and please hold up your factor crap signs for this one, if it makes sense, is that we get it done. There's like an ease. There's a work and life balance now that we've helped us to achieve. And that's really changed. It's really become kind of a more simplified type thing. And then you get things done on time. And we've really undervalued a lot of the quality issues. We've really undervalued a lot of what's right for the sample because we want to get things done. We don't want to ask the questions, so we don't want to muddy the waters, because that's the biggest part, is that we can leave at 6 o'clock, right? We can not check our phones. It's really changed what's the most important thing for us. So some of the technologies that we talk about with what's changed is, yesterday, to me, it didn't seem like a huge deal when Melanie said that everyone uses a router. Maybe I'm just too close to the forest, to see the trees. But then as I was out talking to clients, I was talking to people, they're like, everybody's using a router. Everybody's using a router. River? What's a river? What is an API? And the biggest part of that is because as we've automated, we've really started to gain kind of a distrust into the reasons why we're doing things and how things are done. You'll see a chart earlier, it was in Grit this week, about sample quality, and they mentioned a little bit in the survey debate, is that the quality of sample perceived by us is that everything's better. The quality perceived by our clients is that things are getting worse. So, as you can see from this, as we're starting to use more technology, we really naturally are starting to sacrifice the transparency for speed. We're sacrificing transparency to a get-it-done type attitude. And the question is, that has to be good, right? And the answer is no to our clients. The people that were answering the Grit, it was overwhelmingly that sample quality is getting worse. And because the objective has changed from quality and care and transparency, and we believe we're doing everything right, we've really lost track of what are the quality standards, because we've gone it to where we just want to get the project done. We want to get through, and there really is almost an over amount of trust in that we're doing what's best for the project, to where we're losing the quality that we have. There was a talk a couple weeks ago, Bailey Buchanan and Sean Case of Research for Good talked about commodity versus supply. And a big part of that is that sample, to a lot of people, has become a commodity, which is like cringing to my ears. Sample is a commodity, you can get it everywhere. Everyone's the same, it's just a tool of where the price is. And we've kind of done that by changing where we are. There's a 20-year-old book called Discipline of Market Leaders, and it has the triangle on there, and really what type of company are you? Are you an excellence in operation? Are you a product-based company? Or are you a service-based company? By doing what we've done, we've made our own bed of it. So when I say sample's not the problem, no, we help make the bed to make ourselves the problem. We've made ourselves such a product-driven company. We've made ourselves such a product-driven industry. We've made our automation to be even more product-based because we take out the service by adding in more automation, and that we've really lost track of the service part. And when what most people see as a commodity, Bailey and Sean made a great point of saying that it can't be a commodity because the supply is not there. There's so many things we're falling short of. Like the demand is so high for these people, and yet we're still having problems getting 18 and 24-year-olds. We're still having problems getting ethnicities. We're still having problems getting Hispanics. So it's hard to say that an industry is overrun by commodities when there is such a lack for supply and demand. So by sacrificing the standards and compromising to meet the market needs, in a sense, we've devalued ourselves because we've changed from having that seat at the table. We've changed from 6 years ago in the Grit report saying that we want to be the partner, we have our client's best interest in mind, to becoming this get-it-done type mentality. So talking a little bit more about commodity, we do a lot of research on research, and we believe, if something is a commodity, everything's going to score the same. So we run raves and waves of research on research and trying to figure out, across different waves, our panels answering the same. We run behavior type tests. We do top box scores of concepts to see wave over wave, are US-based consumer panels going to score the same throughout. And as you can see, that's not true. There's a failure of sample suppliers to not sell the value of being different so much. when really you can see how different you are. I think there's huge benefit to panel E, someone who's going to score consistently or close to consistency. But there's also huge benefits if you're horrible and you're panel N and you're showing improvement along the way. So I think along the way, we really have to start thinking about what is our differentiator. And while we pretend to be aggregates, we can't dig a hole deeper by not showing how our real differentiator is. This is the death of work and life balance. And that sounds sad, right? But I think we need to own the most important a little bit more as sample suppliers. I think, how many people here work in a company and you feel like work-life balance is a problem for you? Like, more people need to be focused. They're like, oh, I stay till late. Oh, I'm working on the weekends. Does anybody feel that way? Everybody does. We're going through a lot of culture things at EMI right now, and when we first did an internal survey, and we had like 26% of the people thought, man, our work-life balance stinks. We're working on the weekend, we're working late. This is bad, it's becoming a culture issue. So we took our results and we benchmarked them against the National Survey of Human Resources and tried to see what their response were. And the thing is that nationally, under 30% of people are satisfied with their work-life balance. And it's just something we have to own. If the most important is changed from a get-it-done type attitude, we have to accept where work-life balance is, and really the death of the concept that everything should be focused around a work-life balance. In summary, I think that the biggest part about, there's a lot of buzzwords you hear at these conferences. I think the biggest buzzword I've heard is millennials here, but it's a whole other thing. But transparency is a huge buzzword at these conferences, and really, and I think we need to really rethink what we mean by transparency, because transparency should really be about trust. There's a difference in when you put panels on a study, knowing where everyone came from, knowing what every panel that everyone came from, being open with that, and really having the trust that the panels that they came from are the right ones to be used there. And I think that's where there's probably that disconnect, because we all want to think we're transparent, but do we really have our client's best interest in mind? And that's a big part, I think, that really gets lost in the get-it-done type of mentality. I think we need to look more at that commodity and supply and really separate ourselves as sample suppliers to stop viewing ourselves as a commodity. There's a kind of a paradox to where you have your cost of how much something cost, and then you have your profit part. And in the middle, there is that ROI and that margin base. We've worked ourselves to the point to where you can only raise prices so high, and there's a market price for everything. And so to gain more of the ROI or the margin, rather than raise the price, we've decided to lower the cost. And I think we have to make a change. We have to push back. And that's something you see in the GRIT report. There's a huge disbelief in how much we should be charging things. And a lot of times we're sacrificing and we're compromising what we're doing to try to lower the cost of something so we can meet the ROI, we meet the margin type standards. And we should be going the other way. I really urge everyone to start looking at the evolution sacrifices. Look at why you are using the automation that you're using. Is it something to really better the respondents, to really get to the better respondents out there, to make your surveys more friendly, to get more people to start taking them, or as a business decision of why we're automating? And then lastly, just continue to have the communication, feasibility, and targeting. To me, my dream is that next year when we're looking at the GRIT reports, we're back to having that partnership type mentality. We're done with the sacrificing, we're done with the compromising to get things done. We're back to believing in partnerships and not vendor relationships.